Stop the cap.
I hate when I get out of sync of the videos that I was planning on uploading, and then, comment sections and comments and stuff that I don't know. I just feel like it's better to address in real time as opposed to posting the videos that I wanted to post, like personally wanted to post. But I'm gonna kill two birds with one stone with this video. My voice is all screwed up because I keep sleeping with the fan in my face, and you know, it's just been hot. I don't know why I get hot, even though I got the air on. It's like I'm still hot. Like in the summertime, I'm just like still hot, temperature wise. It was like 100 degrees today. The shit was ridiculous. Anyway, so I'm going to address one of the white nationalists, white supremacists in my comment section, and a woman that made a comment about women in voting and the manosphere and the red pill and just pearly things saying that women shouldn't have the right to vote. And I'm going to tie it all together because it's kind of related to one another. So, on the white supremacist, white nationalist end, first off, let me say, the big problem with the white nationalists is obviously you guys are white supremacists. So you want pretty much what everybody wants, right? Which is, the basics of life, being able to earn money, save up enough to pass it on to the next generation, do things like buy property, and live a fairly comfortable lifestyle. Which, unfortunately, if you really understand the history of America, and that America is the evil empire from Star Wars, then you will understand all of the immigrant issues that you have as white Americans that you bitch and you complain about as a byproduct of American imperialism, screwing up everybody else's economies, right? Navigating the seven seas and facilitating, trade, right? Which doesn't help the American worker because, the goods are able to be produced and manufactured overseas for cheaper using cheap labor. And so that undermines the American worker, right? Now, I don't know how America would go back to the 1950s or 1960s model that many of you all fantasize about, this make America great again. That's the time period you're talking about. Not just the aspects of the racial stuff where white supremacy was basically written into law, with Jim Crow and redlining and all that stuff, right? Where white people think that they were on top racially and also that they were on top um, economically, which comes down to global trade. Hold on a second. Had to run around right quick. But what was I saying? I said global trade. Yeah. So, you'll hear a lot of white supremacists will jump up and they'll say all these black countries and brown countries all around the world, they're all third world countries. They're all screwed up. They're all dysfunctional. Completely ignoring the fact that these nations are screwed up because of the meddling that the United States has done, right? But then they'll, argue and feel like they don't owe anybody anything and that other people are entitled, when they come here, again, because they're completely ignorant of U.S. foreign policy, they ignore all that. Aside from the fact that they ignore, like if you look at the most modern cities in the world, a lot of them are in Southeast Asia. you know, and even in Africa, when you look at the downtowns of, the major metropolitan cities, I mean, thoroughly developed, but I have my own criticisms of Africa because typically that infrastructure was built either by the Chinese or by Western powers just so that they can extract resources out of the country faster. So I have my criticism of Africa. But Southeast Asia, Indonesia, Singapore, Vietnam, as a country, these places are developed. And the crazy thing is like you'll have like it's always these places are shitty, but when white men can't make it in the West, they flee to those countries, to be, 50 and 60 years old and preying on, young 18-year-old Filipino women or Thai women or Vietnamese women, right? They talk all this shit, but then that's where you end up when shit doesn't work out with Becky, right? But this is, the problem with white nationalists and white supremacists. You guys are ignorant of history. You're just ignorant, so all you're left with is the racist talking points. It's very difficult to have a discussion because you don't know enough about history. You have these diluted ideas and concepts of white supremacy. Again, white supremacy was, created essentially at the end of the 1400s into the 1500s in order for the nobility of Europe to facilitate what used to be the serfs and the peasants to leave the continent of Europe and go out there and extract labor and resources and material wealth and then funnel it back to Europe. I mean that's what it was, and they needed a hierarchical system, right, in order to make a bunch of poor ass podunk white people that didn't have a pot to piss in before feel that they were special to go out there and, manifest destiny and, just simply take from the lands and other people, everything that white people go through now, right? And I've seen some white nationalists, they bitch about this. Everything that they're going through now, it's like because, white people deserve it or whatever. And it's like, yeah, technically you do. And you're not doing anything to change that, right? I mean, that's what your ancestors did. It could have been different. You could have went around the world and interacted with different, peoples, and your ancestors could have set up something, mutually beneficial, but they didn't do that. And the crazy part is you all, claim yourselves to be Christian and righteousness and justice and all this other bullshit, but you don't operate like that. I mean, based on your own Judeo-Christian principles that you say you subscribe to, your ancestors should be literally burning in hell. Like literally on fire right now, screaming, and the devil's just like pushing them back down into the fire. That's your ancestors. But see, y'all ain't got nothing to say about that. You think your grandpa and your great grandpa are like, and your great grandma that they up there and, you got their picture over the fireplace and whatnot. And like, no, they should be burning in hell on fire, flesh, just coming off their skin, or bones and whatnot. Like they should be suffering like a motherfucker. Right? Going back several generations, not just one generation or two generations, several generations. But I know y'all don't want to think about it like that. But this is one of the reasons why it's just difficult to have any sort of intellectual conversation about, what's going on in America, big picture, between the economy, genders, marriage, right? All this shit, right? So let's bring that into the fold. Now that I didn't said all that, with the woman that was bitching to me about just pearly things and the manosphere doesn't want women to be able to vote, right? So I'm going to bring that into the room. So before I start that part, I just want to say, like, patriarchy does not work if men are not gainfully employed. I don't care how you want to do it. I don't care how you dice it up. It does not work. Okay? It's an exchange. It's transactional. Women submit, get with the program, right? Offer you, you know, what do you call it? Not their last name, but they'll take your last name. The children are yours, right? And both of you are supposed to benefit from that picture, right? Feminism told women all of that is oppressive. Now, you have women who entered the workforce. You got certain women that love their autonomy. And then you got other women that are just, they want it all. They want the best of both worlds. Right? And now you have it where essentially nobody's raising the children, or the people that are raising the children are only being paid $13.75 an hour to raise the children. On top of the fact that it's like, and I've seen several videos like this on Instagram where they're talking about the wife might as well stop working and go back to being a stay-at-home wife because the daycare fees and cost are so astronomically high. I think who's that guy that's always talking about, boomers versus millennials and zillennials? He did a video recently where he said that daycare is like $36,000. There's people that don't even make $36,000 a year, right? And so you just end up with this situation where women are like, oh, we're professional degrees, careers, and all this other stuff. But then when you just add up all of the cost of living, right, things start to stop making sense. This is the same argument that, with the whole people being on welfare, even people being on disability, where you want to work, you want to get a job, but the disability or the welfare pays you more money than if you got a job, right? And if you got a job, then all of a sudden all the benefits just basically shut down and disappear, right? So like, you needed, like, in other words, the job, and even if the job is cool and the job pays itself, the other things, the other expenses, you have to now come out of pocket for, right? And so now you're getting doubly hit. Like, even when you're just trying to get your head over water, you can't, because of the way that it's set up, because there's that space in the middle where if you're in that space, you're not making enough money to survive. So it's like, oh, you need to be on welfare, but you don't want to be on welfare. But it's like, okay, either be on welfare, lose all these benefits, or be in that window where you're not making enough money to survive, where you really want to be in the next category where you have enough money to, survive, and you don't have to be on welfare, right? That's the happy Goldilocks zone. That's the happy spot, right? But what people do is they ignore that middle spot of where you're like working, but you can't keep your head above water, and you're like the working poor. They act like that middle spot doesn't exist. And there's really nothing in the system that really addresses that middle spot, right? And that goes for, the people trying to raise kids, and also, people just trying to live and not be on welfare. Those two things are very similar, if I'm making sense when I say that, right? But women, they want to be in the workforce, all that. Women, okay, we're going to go out here and we're going to vote. And it's like, I understood the statement that Just Pearly thinks said. I don't think that's why she got demonetized. That was one of the reasons she got demonetized. That whole Nick Fuentes and the, that situation that happened in Germany, denial. Yeah, that was That was a problem. So that's why she got demonetized. It's a combination of things. Same thing with Fresh and Fit. You know what I mean? They try to be provocative for the sake of being provocative, not knowing where the edge is, and taking shit too far. That's why she got demonetized. But I understood the whole concept more. I think she did a horrible job of even trying to explain it. And I do think that she's, a grifter and doesn't really care, just saying shit, right? But, that she probably heard from some man in the manosphere about women in the vote, right? But it's like this. And this is what I gotta even say to like the white supremacists, like when we talk about patriarchy. So patriarchy only works if men are gainfully employed. And when it comes to women voting, what has essentially happened is it's easy for the powers that be to come through and since men and women are no longer getting married like that, you have this population of women that they're looking out for their own self-interest. They don't have a husband, right? So they'll vote for things like abortion rights, shit like that. We can talk about women being sexually irresponsible, blah 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 blah. But see, the thing is when a woman's not married, right? Pregnancy and and I shouldn't even call it birth control because it's not birth control, and abortion become important because there is the risk because she's having all this premarital sex. There's the risk that she could become pregnant. So that becomes an important issue for women who are not married. Okay. Women who are married, that would be significantly less of an issue because with a husband that's gainfully employed, you know, every child is a blessing sort of situation. This is why when you look at people that are wealthy, they basically got infinite resources, they tend to have a lot of kids, like the John Travoltas, of the world. Right? They got a whole bunch of kids. Who else has a bunch of kids? Is it Bruce Willis? Who got a bunch of kids? Somebody else I'm trying to think of. I can't think of off the top of the head, but there's a bunch of white actors. They've been married to the same woman for years. They got a just gang of kids, right? Just kids on kids on kids on kids on kids, right? So the idea, when it comes to, birth control, everything, all that is tied to whether a woman has resources or not to actually bring the child into the world. I know that there's women out there that try to use abortion like it's birth control. I think that's a horrible thing. I think they're horrible people, and that's all I'm going to say about it. But as it pertains to voting in the interest of your family, you know, what doesn't make sense with, and this was the whole push against voting, right? Which was, or women's voting or women's suffrage, which was that women would be voting against they'd nullify their husband's vote. So in patriarchy, the whole idea is the man is gainfully employed. So we have this political system, right? And if you believe the political system works, right, then you're going to have certain politicians that want to get elected, and there's going to be certain parties that form, all right, coalitions around certain politicians that promise to give them the things that they want. So, example, we know that Reagan basically eliminated the unions in this country, and so there's no unions, and we see that the wages are shit, and there's really no way to fight back currently, right? So if men who are trying to be gainfully employed so that they can take care of their families, if they vote a particular way, like for, I don't know, a Labor Party, right? And then the wife, she comes through and then she's voting for abortion, right? They're nullifying each other's vote. They're just wiping it out. You see, where in a married situation, a woman's husband's interest is her interest, right? When he benefits, she benefits. So she wants him to benefit. So she's going to vote, you know, for whatever he's voting for because it makes sense and it's going to get his party and the things that he's need in positions of power to facilitate the things that he needs. But when the family's all busted up and it's all broken, then the interests don't align. The interests are separate. So speaking to the white nationalist talking points, like with the black community, what is black community? We keep voting Democrat and blah 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 blah. First off, black community is a matriarchy. The white community has done a successful job at destroying and dismantling the black community. You did it. Mission accomplished. I don't know what you're bitching about. You have the black people you deserve. Everything from redlining to Jim Crow to job discrimination, especially as it pertains to black men, right? Mass incarceration, right? Denial of, the application when it comes to bank loans to start businesses, right? Because you didn't want any competition. You don't want no black people to compete with you. Okay, well, what are you complaining about? You know what I mean? Get carjacked. Deal with the gun in your face. Deal with the shit you got to deal with in Baltimore. Deal with the squeegee boys fucking up your car when, you don't want to pay them to do a weak ass squeegee job on your car. Deal with the shit. You created the situation. I mean, to prove to me the white people haven't done everything in their power to cripple the black community. You've done everything in your power, so I don't know why you're bitching. But to speak to the white nationalists, ask me the stupid question. Oh, why do black people, vote Democrat? The black families busted up. You see black men, they're, splitting off, and more black men are talking about, voting for Trump, even though all this Project 2025 and, what the Heritage Foundation is talking is a problem, right? But I mean, we're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Right? You got goofy shit on the left, right? Everybody should be gay, and there's 33 flavors of genders, right? And toxic masculinity and smash the patriarchy. And then on the left, and then on the right, you got, foaming of the mouth white supremacists. And then this is what black men got to pick from, right? But if you look at it, going back to what I said, just a minute ago, right? If you wanted to see more black women, right? Because black women are primarily the ones that are out here hard in the paint for the Democrat Party to get, all these feminist goodies, right? The only way that you would get black women to stop voting like that is you would have to have a strong black patriarchy. But you don't want a strong black patriarchy because you don't want a black male heteronormative cisgender community to compete against you, even though we're all in the same country, right? You don't want to deal with, if you're in the contracting business, you don't want to deal with black contractors. If you have a small business that sells, I don't know, X, you don't want the black guy, having his small business selling Y, right? Because you don't want competition. So as a result of undermining the black family and the black community, right? Because y'all act like y'all be trying to bring up Democrats and the welfare state and all that other stuff. But it's not like y'all are over there on the Republican side talking about, well, we really got to do to get the black family back intact is, to get black men to be gainfully employed. Like, y'all ain't talking none of that shit. You may want to end welfare because you just see it as your tax dollars going to welfare and going to black single moms, but you're not actively trying to do anything to support intact black families. The same that you would have to support when it comes to intact white families. They need the same fucking thing. But y'all ain't trying to do any of that. So to me, it's just, it's circular arguments. It's a bunch of, trying to sound like, oh, black people, y'all are stupid and y'all need to vote this way and everything. But you ain't offering shit. You ain't offering shit. And it's the same as this goddamn boomer talk where they go up there and they talk about we need men to act like men, and you got Jordan Peterson up there, and you need to learn to make your bedroom and make sure that you clean your room and all this dumbass bullshit. But they're not talking about, actual men being gainfully employed in material wealth, right? So when the arguments come up, oh, women shouldn't vote and all this other stuff, right? Whether women vote or not is to me is irrelevant, because they would vote the same way as the men if they had, or if they were involved in more marriages. As long as the marriage keeps declining, women are they're not going to vote, to support the husband that's supporting them. They're not going to vote that way. They're going to vote for their own independence. And this has, been the, I guess the motive of the Democrat Party, which is to bust up the family. But it might not just be the Democrats specifically. I think that it's bigger than that. Y'all have read up on Gloria Steinem and the CIA and the banking system, and putting, they had a whole 50% of the population that they couldn't tax, they couldn't put into debt, they couldn't lend credit cards to, right? Right? They couldn't get them in the student loan debt. Now they can. They can do all that. You see? So if you really want to talk about, because personally, let me say this. Let me be very crystal clear about this. People who are raising families tend to be more conservative, because responsibilities are real, and the seriousness of responsibilities are real. People don't have time to go out there and talk about identity politics and talk about, I identify as a bear or some other bullshit, because they're about the business of raising their damn kids. Everybody pretty much wants the same thing. They want decent wages, decent housing, safe communities, and be able to, educate their children. That's what they want to do. And then their children go off and have, opportunities, and then can, you torches passed on, and then, they continue that into perpetuity. Boomers broke that, by the way. I mean, they completely fucked that up. Just, oh yes, we're going to buy a house for $10,000 and it's just going to go up in value in perpetuity. And some kid down the line, 2 generations from myself, my grandkids, they'll be buying this $1 million home. With what? With what, asshole? With what? You know what I mean? So boomers have just been completely the what do you want to call it? The vampires of society. You know what I mean? If people start desecrating boomer cemeteries long after they're gone, I wouldn't be surprised. People just, another cemetery has been vandalized. People just going in there with sledgehammers and just smashing tombstones. I wouldn't be surprised about that shit. They fucked it up, which again makes me question, white supremacy, because I'm like, how do you have white supremacy for, since what, the 1500s? It's white supremacy through the 1500s, white supremacy through the 1600s, white supremacy through the 1700s, white supremacy through the 1800s, white supremacy through the 1900s, white supremacy through the 2000s, and then, right, the boomers, they fuck it up. Like if I was, the supreme master white supremacy ghost, and I was like the white supremacy spirit, I'd be pissed off at the fucking boomers. I'm like, you fucked it up. The fuck are you doing? I mean, just completely fucked it up. But y'all don't see it that way. Y'all run around in your ignorance. Oh, the reason why America is falling apart is because they don't have a sweet twinkle of white Jesus in their eye. It's because all these black people are breathing up all the white man's air. Isn't that right, Jebediah and Ebenezer and Ezekiel? Isn't that right? Y'all motherfuckers is just dumb. Dumb. I see you in the comment sections everywhere all over the internet. Everywhere all over the internet. I mean, y'all prove that white supremacy is ain't real. It's just some made up shit with the dumbass comments I see coming from white folks. But what else was I going to say? There was something else I was going to say about the women and the voting, how they vote. Damn, what else was I going to say? Oh, and then like even with the women voting for to have their own resources and everything. I don't know. Women are just. I watch what women do. I don't care what women say. Women just talk a bunch of bullshit. They get caught up in idealism, but reality is completely different. And that's just based off of you see all this like Tommy Loren, ain't nobody on my level, all my friends are successful, but then they only want to date up. What is the fucking point in paying women and women only want to date up? Right? I don't think that, like, okay, right? If a woman, right, things are already set up that way, right? It's like, divorce court, right? Like, here's the whole thing. Like, even when men don't want to get married, of course they don't. Of course they don't. See, when men had resources, here's the thing. Like, when men had resources and like women always had a safety net and men had resources, right? So women have the safety net, which is if I divorce you, I don't believe in no fault divorce. That should be completely tossed. But if a woman divorces you or the divorce happens, let me say it that way, that she would get resources. I don't believe that if you're married to a woman, for 30 years and then you just decide as a man, oh, I want to trade up for a hotter model, and then because you're a successful man and young women find that attractive, so you divorce your wife. What are you going to do? Abandon your kids and then go off? Like, your kids ain't even going to like you for that shit. Like, it's just dumb shit, right? I know it has gone on. Women always try to point to like these worst case scenarios, but I'm saying there were already safety measures in place. The whole system of divorce courts is pretty much set up at a time when women essentially didn't work and men made all the money or the lion's share of the money. Well, now, with this shit ass economy and shit ass world, that's changed. And so men have even less. So men looking at marriage like they're still talking about taking my shit. I don't even have shit to take. Why am I gonna do this? Right? And then the hypocrisy of women just it irritates men because women have been running around screaming equality, equality, equality. But they don't really want equality. They want equal power, but they don't want equal treatment. And that's part of the problem. So you end up with this situation where, oh, I'm a strong, independent woman. I want to make more money. And then those same women are like, okay, now I'm making six figures, but now I want to date men that are making 200K and 300K. And it just gets retarded. Right. So it's like, okay, so what's the solution? Should we intentionally be out here paying women less? I don't think that's the solution. Right. But I do think that we should be in a world where women actually want to be mothers and play the role of a traditional mother. But we also got to talk about men being gainfully employed, right? Because it's just like with Mike Rao when he talks about dirty jobs. Like, women look at their traditional roles like the way that young men look at the trades. Trades have no status, right? People don't know how much they make. There's really been very little outreach in terms of the trades. You know what I mean? Like, hey, how much money are you making? Oh, I'm making, 130. Oh shit. Let me get on that. Right? No. The trades always look like the downtrodden blue collar guy that didn't have anything going on. He had no motion. He had no bitches. No, the women didn't want to smell him. Him with his little his overalls with the name tag on it, right? Even though these are the people that keep the world going, right? These are the people that literally keep everything going, that literally keep all these fucking Karens happy with all the shit that upper middle class Karen enjoys. Everything to her fucking latte, which has to be driven on a truck that says Starbucks on the side, and to her little strawberries that she gets from the supermarket from Chile, all this stuff, all the mechanics for the trucks, the pilots, at the airport, the freaking, the people who coordinate all that shit. These aren't necessarily people who went to college, right? All these goods and services, everything that's connected to that. Men keep the world going. I was watching some clip, had that, what's her name? What's that Jewish lady's name on The View? The Jill, whatever her name is. That bitch had the audacity to sit there and talk about we don't need men. And they were all up there laughing and hee-heeing and ha-ha. And you know what I mean? And I swear, men need to go on strike. It needs to be like that movie, A Day Without Mexicans. Man, just shut this bitch down. Shut it down. Just shut it down. And just sit there. I mean, we could all, like, I don't know, go in the woods and have a campfire and have a couple beers or some shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Just shut this bitch the fuck down and let these women feel it for a couple days. Like when the sanitation workers in New York, say, oh, you don't want to pay us? Oh, we got to negotiate for a new contract? Okay. Yeah, all right. Nobody pick up any trash. And that shit just piles up and piles up. The rats start coming out and throwing parties. They start playing, dominoes right there on the corner, right next to the trash pile and shit. You know what I mean? Like, and the stench just creeps up in everybody's room. I'm like, yeah, keep fucking around. Keep fucking around, and you about to find out. And I just feel like men just need to go on motherfucking strike, especially, the blue collar men that literally, keep this country maintained and going, right? No status, no prestige, no nothing. And they just just completely shit on. Just completely shit on. But anyway, yeah, the whole women and money and look, I know you got some hardcore feminists out there that, they hate men and they want to be on some Alice Walker shit and they're lesbians or some other bullshit. But I don't think that's the majority of women. But I do think the majority of women are confused as fuck, and they're running around, with the fear, right, that has been put into their heads of, the man that's a tyrant with his resources. And what's so crazy is, like, it is better for men to be tyrants than for men to be broke dusties. You do realize that, right? It is better for men to be tyrants than to be broke dusties. And aside from the fact that even if, like, first off, women can't make money if men don't maintain the society in which women make money. I don't know where women get the idea that they're just like these self-sufficient, beings that are independent of men. It's bullshit. Women have no power. The women have the power of influence, I guess, which is a man wants to be with her. He wants life to be simple. So he tries to please her as best he can. But women don't have any power. Why don't women have any power? Women don't have any power because women cannot enforce anything that they want to do. At the end of the day, men at the collective level have to agree with what the women want to happen. And then the men have to go out there and enforce it. Plain and simple. Enforce it. Right? Whether it's there's a predator in the community, there's some criminal, somebody didn't pay their taxes, somebody went speeding, or something. Go get that person, right? It's a bunch of men with some badges and a flashlight and a gun that go enforce that shit. I don't care what women have to say. On no level are women enforcing a goddamn thing. If there was a war between men and women, men would win. If there was going to be a fight, if all men agreed and came together and high-fived each other and said, we're going to oppress these women and put them in chains, that would happen tomorrow. I don't understand why women, I can hear the feminists now gas, right? They're so offended. How dare I say that? Right? Okay. And where's the lie? Where's the lie? I'm not saying men shouldn't do that, but don't you dare think that men can't do that. Is the likelihood of men doing that very, very unlikely? Yes, of course, it's very unlikely. But the closer Western civilization gets to total and complete collapse, right? The closer you get to Mad Max and the Road Warrior and a Morton Joe hanging out the side of the car talking about, that's my property, right? Him out there on Furiosa Road, right? Talking that shit, right? And in that series, in beyond the Thunderdome type of world where there's total fucking collapse, oh my God. Like, ugh. That is a very bad world to be a woman in. And I'm sure very quickly there will be some organization of society, right? Because men don't want to see the women that they love and care about, their mothers and sisters and nieces and cousins and shit like that, be violated, right? Right. So there's always going to be men that are going to be out here fighting other men from, you know, attacking or oppressing, other women. But I'm saying, you get into any sort of, all you got to do is just look around the globe. Anytime there's like a coup and the government collapses and, there's, the police department, like, it's like the shit, police departments are overwhelmed, COVID, think Hurricane Katrina and shit like that. There's murders that happen in Hurricane Katrina that ain't nobody ever going to find out. You know what I mean? So they take somebody out, throw their body in the damn, flood waters and shit. And, it looks like they drowned. She drowned. That's all there is, but that's all there is to it. It's like, I don't know why women like are doing things to like fast track the world to fucking total collapse by just undermining men and pissing men off and making men be anti-women and hate women and then sit there and stupidly act like it came out of the void. Like, y'all kill me with that shit. Y'all kill me with that shit. But we're here. This is where we are now, and I don't know what the solution is, right? But I just look at the things that women claim that they want. Now, some women, they want their autonomy and independence more than they want anything else, right? But even with that, I'm like, I don't see how that works, right? Because everything that what women really want, what these like feminists want, is they want there to be like this magic pool in the middle that women are able to just tap into at any time and just pluck resources. They don't have to negotiate with any man. This is essentially what the government is. So the idea for the ultimate feminist orgy dream is for basically men to be reduced to chattel labor, men continue to work and be productive for the benefit of women as a collective. Women have full custody of the children. They only need men to procreate with. They get the man's sperm, they have the baby. Men continue to be productive but have no say or control over the women and children that they're providing for, right? Because now we put barriers in place so that there's no direct connection between the man and his family, right? And then the government, right, which has all its hired guns, right, forcibly extracts those resources and taxes from the men and then hands it over to the women, right? Essentially, like, we're nearing a situation where men don't have the right to vote. That's really more what society looks like, right? Because as Captain Solo said a long time ago, it's like, nah, once you take a man's kids away, like it's matriarchy. Like, the man has nothing to fight for at that point. And obviously the government, they'd love nothing more than that, right? Because, then it's the 1984 scenario, right? They get to indoctrinate your children. They get to, they separate the father from the family, bust it all up, right? And then they have control. And then, they send you to the public schools and then teach them all the things that they want you to know. Think about how much like the conversation is now about financial literacy. How come nobody learned to be financially literate in public school? How come they don't teach that? Right? How come they don't teach about compounded interest and these sorts of things and derivatives and capital gains, and they don't teach none of that shit. They don't teach you about the stock market and investments. They don't teach any of that stuff. That's for the wealthy. This is what I'm saying. We live in a plutocracy, right? This nation is, it's a classist system, where, of capitalism that is exploitative, and most of the people are worker bees, and the elites, right? They control the banks, they control the Fortune 500 companies, they control all of this. So while you all are sitting around talking about, having the warmth of Christ in your bosom, right? The corporations and the banks, these are your overlords. And then you got the bullshit slim ass hope that somehow voting for Donald Trump or any other politician is going to, change your world, when there's, the politics are paid for by the banks and the corporations and, all these other wealthy people. The politicians are beholden to them. They're not beholden to you until you what? Get the politicians to do what? Vote against their own current interest, right? And getting them to take the money out of politics. Doing that would be the equivalent of, which they've already done, right? Taking the pharmaceutical sales reps, right, essentially out of the doctor's offices with all their, all the perks, right? All the, oh, here's some Eagles tickets, they can still buy you lunch, which is one of their big leveraging points. And I mean, the amount of money that the pharmaceutical sales reps have spent, if you ever, next time you go to your doctor's office, they usually got a little office or little room in their little kitchen. Peek your head in there. They'll probably say, you can't go in there. I don't care. Peek your head in there and you will see all this, like you will see company names that have takeout that you didn't even know, like, did like catering style type of takeout. I'm talking about the sandwiches, the fucking, just all, with the little, what do you call that? The little clear plastic, bubble plastic things on. You can eat it up. And usually there's way more food than you can eat. And you know what the deal is? The deal is, so the pharmaceutical reps come in there and they basically, in order to buy the physician's time, they got to buy lunch for the entire office. This is if it's a private practice. They got to buy lunch for the entire. That's how the game is played now, right? But before, they were getting major perks, right? Because the pharmaceutical companies would want to go and, push their drug that was probably less effective than this other drug, because, right, that's how the pharmaceutical companies make money, right? The doctor writes a script for that drug, right? And then the pharmaceutical company makes money, and then the doctors would get kickbacks, right? Kickbacks in the form of not actual cash, but kickbacks in terms of, other perks and benefits. And so what was done, and I got to look at the laws. I just know that this was done, that was basically removed out of the system because they said that it was a conflict of interest, which it was a conflict, of interest, right? But hold on a second. I'm losing my train of thought. Oh, yes. Yeah. The politicians, it's the same thing, right? Now, do you think that if doctors got to vote against having the pharmaceutical sales reps in there, giving them Eagles tickets, do you honestly think that they would vote against that? No, they would not. Right? So are the politicians going to vote against all the money that they get from lobbyists, all the money that they get for campaign contributions. First off, all these campaign contributions, they're not even needed like that, since fucking everything is online, right? I mean, does it really take, $4 million for campaign funds in order to have one debate on television? Hell, you could have a debate on YouTube and have two politicians sit down, have a moderator in somebody's living room and debate their position. How much does that cost? Right? But see, that's we know that that's not where all the money is going. They can put all the campaign finance laws in place. The system is motherfucking corrupt. It's corrupt. So people gotta become more intelligent so that they can move with purpose. But right now it's a whole bunch of divide and conquer between the races and between the genders. And when I say that, I gotta say that with a grain of salt, because what the white people want to do is, when I say that, they're like, yeah, that's right. And so Black Lives Matter. They start going into their bullshit, and I'm like, no, motherfucker. The system is currently unequal and uneven between the races because of past transgressions of racist policies. That has to be corrected first, and they don't want to correct that. So us coming together in form of Voltron, even though we have the same interest, essentially, when it comes to family and all that other stuff. I know every white person is not going to agree with me saying that, because obviously the white nationalists are going to be like, no, it's mine. Everything is mine. It's all for me. No, because they're greedy as fuck, and that's just how they are. Right. But there's other, white people that I know listen to my channel, because they comment from time to time, and they're starting to see the shit for what it is, and they're like, yeah, you are right about that. I never thought about it like that, but you are right about that. So as long as you keep all these groups divided up, right, and you got all these multiple interest groups and no one code, then what you end up with is a situation where no one group, can get all that they want. And so, even though when it comes to family, that should be something that everybody agrees on, but that easily gets busted up with feminism. I don't care what women say. Men are not the ones that walked away from family. Women did. Women did. Y'all were the ones that walked away from the, again, you all determine when children come into the world, how children come into the world, who you lay up with. You know what I mean? I can't make up for the fact that you go out there and you get with somebody sorry. That I can't make up. I can't make up for that. But when it comes to like the actual, like the family and shit, there's no rhetoric. Men don't we don't get kudos for being bachelors, in perpetuity. The conversation that pertains to that is based off of how much men get crushed, in marriage because of no fault divorce. And what's the other thing? And just the whole court system. She gets the house, she gets half your assets, and she gets custody of the kids, and then you're living somewhere in a 1-bedroom apartment on a futon, what I mean, paying out. That's why men are like, no, marriage, like, because most of us, do want to get married. Most of us want to have children, but all that costs money. And then the whole dynamic of the marriage is basically predicated on us perpetually staying ahead of the woman in order to keep her of sound mind, for the remainder of the marriage. And the sad part is most men are willing to do that. Why do you think you got so much simping going on? Why do you all this sugar daddying and fucking all these guys throwing millions of dollars at a bitch, because she's pretty online? And yes, every woman cannot evoke that response. Yes, the beautiful women, they can evoke that response, and they can do that. But as we all have seen, most men are less picky than women are. Most men are like, hey, give me a 7 with a decent personality. You hear men say that all the time. Women, on the other hand, we only want the top 20% of guys. If there's 100, if there's 10 guys, on a dating profile, we only want maybe the top 4, and number 3 and number 4 are optional. We really want number 1 and number 2. I mean, it's just the destabilizing force of all this is ridiculous. And I mean, it's busting up the sexual markets. Birth rates are just shit. That's going to be a problem in the future. America, seriously speaking, America is going to look like Korea and Japan in the near future, especially for white people. I mean, especially for white people, because a lot of minority people, black people, Hispanic people, they're used to poverty. Asians will probably just disappear, from America, seriously speaking, or you'll have a lot of white Asians or something like that, half white, half Asian, but with only 35% of Asian men procreating. And even when it comes to Asian women have the lowest rate of procreation, right? Because, Asians, they got their whole cultural thing, right? We're just gonna keep waiting and waiting until wait until I get my PhD, and then I'll have kids. You see a lot of Asian women doing shit like that, so they don't end up having kids. But the white people, all you're gonna end up with is, a dwindling population, and then the blacks and the Hispanics, they'll begin to outnumber white people. This will create more, political, violence and shit like that, because white people be running around screaming, the great replacement. And I'm saying this is not going to happen anytime soon. This is more like over the course of the next like 200 years, which I don't even know if America's even going to last that long. Because, at the end of the day, women are hypergamous and they want to date up. And if men don't have resources to provide for a family, then either most women, I would argue, and the data bears that out, most women are going to have kids. But those kids, because women think that they're smarter than everybody, those kids will be dysfunctional and be problematic for the society, especially the boys, because they won't have they won't have any positive male identity to pursue or follow, because their fathers are not there, they're absent, so they have no way to really be guided and directed into facilitating the system. Economic opportunities will dry up, and then I don't know what happens after that. Senator Palpatine screaming about supreme emergency powers, which, if you all don't know, that scene, which everybody's making memes about in terms of Donald Trump and his assassination attempt. But that whole scene is based off of the man with the funny mustache in Germany, because basically they gave him, what was he a part of? I forget what his thing was. I want to say it wasn't the Weimar. Was that the World War One, or was that World War Two? Somebody's gonna write it in the comment section. But anyway, they gave him supreme emergency powers, basically. And when that happens, then you basically become a dictator and you do what you want, and you got secret police and all that other bullshit. So this is where we are. So I don't see white nationalists, or the majority of white men, for that matter, forming Voltron with any other men of any other group, because they see them as competition. So I just see, a slow decline. And as Divine Brown used to say, can I at least have a brandy on the way as the ship is going down? like those violin players on the Titanic when the Titanic was sinking. You know, so anyway, doom and gloom. I know, doom and gloom. I know, but this is where we are. Where we got to sit around and we got to entertain bullshit and concepts of equality and fairness and all this other bullshit between the genders when that's not even how women are hardwired. It's a waste of fucking time. They want to date up. They want a man that makes more money than them. They want to be treated like a little princess, but they want to have their own money, their own emergency fund, right? So that they can buck anything that they don't want to do that the man is trying to do. And they want their ability to vote so that they can vote about things like abortion, when men are trying to vote for making more money so that they can provide for a family. Because let's face it, women are not fighting to make more money so that they can take care of 3 other people. Men are fighting to make more money so that they can take care of 3 other people. So with that said, when it comes to who needs to make more money, you already know who I think who needs to make more money. So waste of time entertaining women with all this bull. It's a waste of time. I'm gonna start saying to the white, for further evidence, I direct you to a white community near you, because it's going there. It's going there. You got white boys shooting the fucking place up, trying to smoke the president and whatnot. And then we already know what's going on in the black community, right? But the white community, like their shit just manifests differently. And typically it manifests in the form of mass shooters. America is failing white males. Even I would acknowledge that. I was like, oh yeah, y'all failing white males big time. And failed white male. There's nothing more dangerous than a failed white male. You can have a failed black male, and usually he's going to relegate most of his crime to his own community. He might spill out of it every now and again, right? But the white males are far more dangerous, right? Because as long as you stay out of the bad areas, you're not going to come across that failed black men, generally speaking. But when it comes to the failed white men, you could be at the mall, you could be on the beach, you could be at the movie theater, you know what I mean? You could be at a concert, right? You could be at a parade, and them motherfuckers are out to get you, just randomly, just because, and now we got these white identified Latinos, they on the same shit. Shit is a mess. It's a goddamn mess out here. But, the feminists will say I'm a sexist, misogynist pig and I'm the problem with the world and all that. Yeah, shut up, bitch. You still want to date up. Shut the fuck up. You still want to date up. Many of you all still going to go out here and have babies, regardless of whether the man has resources or not, which I think is dumb. And again, looking at, the environment, we can see how dumb that is. And, y'all just go and y'all like the person that literally landed on go and not landed on go, landed on jail. And you think that you're supposed to, what does that card say? Go to jail. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. But y'all just think y'all land on jail. I can do what I want. Whatever. I do what I want. And then y'all just go around the board and you breaking the rules and shit, to the point that the game is unplayable. I mean, and then what's crazy is you want to talk about the fucking, the decline of the white population. No, talk about all these white passport bros. These motherfuckers are sick of white bitches, man. I mean, they are sick of white bitches. They talking about going to, like I said, when you got Undead Chronic talking about getting Asian women, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, that ain't maintaining no white supremacy.
And you talking about mixing your DNA with some Asians. You know that anytime you got white men talking like that, you done fucked up. You done fucked up. Anyway, I'm done. That's my video. SWP out. Don't forget to comment, share, like, and subscribe.